believe what surfaced on a long-hidden cassette from Prince's private vault, because when that legendary voice echoed through a federal courtroom, the most composed music mogul on earth visibly crumbled.
Prince's last Diddy recording played in trial. Cassie said he would get physical. That one male guy who did things with Diddy, and Cassie said he witnessed him get physical. Don, so again, we talked about how the domestic charges aren't, what he's being, what he's on trial for. But boy, it's stacking up. And I feel that the jury is going to take that into consideration.
The first Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security in the party.
And an entire trial pivoted in a single heartbeat. Day 3 of the celebrity trial began with a hum in the corridors that seasoned reporters know too well the electricity that precedes a bombshell. Journalists lined up before dawn, hoping to claim the coveted front-row press benches. Court officers quietly doubled their head count, stationing 4 guards directly behind the defense table for the first time.
Just trying to listen. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that I've heard and seen already. I'm really trying to connect the dots here and think like, damn, what if Prince was what if he caught wind of some, I'll just say allegedly, stuff that Diddy might have been doing that seems to be, I ain't talking about consensual things, I'm talking about illegal things or whatever. But I'm just like, would Diddy be that dumb to not think that Prince, this celebrity, has cameras in his house as well? So I'm just trying to think, because if Prince has cameras and he's recording stuff, to get some dirt on Diddy, I don't know. I feel like Diddy, with all his cameras that he allegedly had, or no, they actually found cameras.
They have their notebooks in their hand. They're coming in, they're very alert, and I think this is one of those testimonies where you have no choice but to pay attention and almost be flabbergasted, obviously, at some of what you're hearing, because it's not only just insight into somebody's life, but the details are disturbing at times, especially during that prosecution testimony when we saw some of the alleged abuse, or we saw pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura, and also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
And the children, as they were exiting court yesterday, 2 of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court? Again,
I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through, but I think that's something that you think about on both sides, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, their 3rd child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her, her brother and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. I've seen him taking notes from the beginning. I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages, so he's paying attention.
Now, Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swinger's lifestyle, but that the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. and she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand tomorrow. Will the prosecution and defense get equal time?
Yeah, as long as there aren't any additional motions, I think that is the goal, to have her off the stand by tomorrow.
Why do you think that? What's the reasoning behind wanting her off the stand tomorrow?
In the very beginning, Rachel, they told us that she would likely be on that stand 2 to 3 days, so here we are.
Even that detail felt foreboding, as if someone in authority anticipated turbulence long before the gavel fell. Sean Diddy Combs strode in wearing a flawless navy suit and his trademark confident smile. To the casual observer, he looked untouchable. Yet veterans in the room noticed the prosecutor's table had sprouted unfamiliar cables and a compact audio console. 2 technicians in discreet gray suits tested inputs, spoke in hushed tones, and nodded at the lead prosecutor. Something new and unannounced was about to enter the evidentiary record. Before proceedings formally opened, the judge issued a rare reminder. Regardless of what is presented today, composure must be maintained. The comment hovered in the air like a pre-storm stillness.
That I don't know, right? What I know is that he was really health conscious. He was a vegan. He didn't abuse alcohol. I didn't know of him abusing drugs. He worked out, so, that also really concerned me, because it made me think that, wow, so you mean you do all these things to take care of yourself and you die so young?
Then, the normal rhythm of witness summaries resumed, lulling the gallery into routine until the prosecutor suddenly halted mid-sentence, lifted a black playback device, and requested permission to introduce critical authenticated audio never previously played in open court.
Such a big deal back then is ever since my 3rd album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise. And they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today. They're not going to exist much longer. It's not like we're against them or anything like that. The idea is that we find better ways of working with one another. It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they should.
Defense counsel protested instantly, arguing inadequate notice. After an animated sidebar, the judge ruled the evidence had been properly disclosed weeks earlier and ordered the jury to listen carefully. Every laptop stopped clacking. Every phone in the press area froze. The prosecutor addressed the room. "What you are about to hear," she said, "is the final private recording made by Prince Rogers Nelson." Gasps rippled through the benches. One reporter later joked he could feel his pulse in his ears.
Cassie Ventura on the witness stand for a 4th day in the federal criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The defense continuing cross-examination this morning, confronting her with dozens of her own messages, many explicit, hoping to convince the jury she was an eager sexual partner who matched Combs' desires. "I'm always ready to off," one message said.
She was into the offs herself and was like a willing participant and was into all the freaky stuff, and essentially that was the crux of what they were trying to do yesterday.
And do you think they proved that or not?
I mean, there's texts like that from 2009, "I'm always ready to off." There was some other texts where she was referencing like hitting him up about the FOs, is what they were referring to him. To me, like, yes, this doesn't look good, but at the same time, I think the timeline is crucial here. And these are texts from 2009, man. That was when they were first getting in the relationship. She was young. Obviously, they were in the honeymoon stage, and she was stoked to like, oh my God, I'm with Diddy. I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Of course, she's going to be saying things that she knows will curry favor with him to keep it going.
Prince, the elusive architect of sonic revolutions, was about to testify posthumously against one of the industry's dominant power brokers. The lead defense attorney tapped Diddy's arm, color visibly drained from the mogul's face. The prosecutor's technicians patched the device into the courtroom speakers. A brittle hiss, then pure silence, and at last, Prince's unmistakable timbre filled the chamber. Prince's tone was low, almost guarded, nothing like his showman's voice. "I'm making this tape because I don't know whom to trust," he began. Each syllable sounded deliberate, every exhale amplified by studio-quality clarity. Over the next few minutes, he cataloged dates, addresses, and high-profile guests at music industry soirees hosted by Combs in Miami, the Hamptons, and Beverly Hills.
The other things that the Diddy's team tried to do was show how they had breaks, and she was with Michael B. Jordan and was with Kid Cudi for a minute. But during that time period, she was still having offs with Diddy, and I think that was them trying to show this wasn't a controlling thing. Here she was hooking up with other people. She just was into the freak.
I kind of buy that, to be honest.
So
she's out of freak off then. She is when she's with Kid Cudi or allegedly with Michael B. Jordan. She's kind of out of the freak if she wants to be. So why do you keep going back? Yeah. I know it's kind of like a mental she still loves Diddy. Diddy was jealous about her.
Oh yeah, because that was another thing that the prosecutors were trying to do, is show that that they had a very jealous relationship. She would get jealous when he's with Kid Cudi. Also, Kim Porter, Cassie would be jealous of Kim Porter.
Right.
Trying to show that, Cassie, you were in love with this guy. That's why you were jealous.
Right.
So, this was a real relationship.
It was just interesting to see Chris Brown.
I mean, he's always coming up somewhere.
He is.
Chris Brown.
All right. Final story of the week. Justin Bieber is not a victim of Diddy. So this was one of those rumors or whatever that was flying around in the months leading up to the trial. And to be honest, there was quite a few rumors flying around, was there minors involved? Says if no other celebrity was part of freak-offs, why are they in hiding? Are they in hiding though?
I don't think they're in hiding. I just think other celebrities didn't want to insert themselves. No one wants to be tied to Diddy one way or the other.
Even if you're at a white party, just having a lot of fun at one of Diddy's white parties, you don't want to be linked in any way.
No, and that's why all those people, there's a few people I think that have come forward and been I didn't see any of this off stuff.
Far from salacious gossip, Prince spoke of a system, carefully curated guest lists, removal of personal security teams at the door, and the calculated excitement of young recording artists separated from managers or guardians. He referenced multiple incidents in which newcomers found themselves pressured into compromising situations. Prince claimed to have seen who gets hurt and described transferring digital files, floor plans, and names into a secure personal archive. Midway through, he recounted a private confrontation after the 2016 Grammy Awards. "I told him this had to stop." Prince alleged Combs laughed and warned that even a legend could be sidelined for disobedience. Finally, the artist listed two payouts, $2 million and $1.3 million to individuals who later signed non-disclosure agreements. Both figures exactly matched banking spreadsheets the jury had already reviewed the day before. Witnesses in the gallery said the mogul's posture deteriorated with every corroborating detail. What began as fixed-jaw stoicism turned into widened eyes, clenched fists, and shallow breaths obvious from 20 feet away. Near the 20-minute mark, Prince's voice cited a December 2015 event at Combs' Hamptons estate, naming celebrities who had publicly denied attending. At that instant, Diddy stood abruptly, chair legs screeching. He shouted, "That's a lie!" The judge's gavel struck like a rifle crack. "Mr. Combs, control yourself." Security officers moved within arm's length. 3 jurors exchanged alarmed looks. Journalists could scarcely believe the scene. In 2 days of testimony, the defendant had appeared unflappable. Now, one audio file had reduced that composure to fragments. Defense counsel begged the court for a 15-minute recess. The judge refused, citing the need for uninterrupted evidentiary flow. Cameras aren't allowed in federal court, yet sketch artists captured the moment. The billionaire executive sweating through tailored wool, loosened tie askew, palms trembling on a yellow legal pad passed by his lawyer to hide the shake. Only after lunch did courtroom insiders begin piecing together how meticulously the prosecution had staged this ambush. They had spent 4 months verifying the tape with 3 independent forensic laboratories. They held it back through 2 full days of routine exhibits because historical footage showed Combs relaxed his guard after 48 hours in legal settings. They wanted the jury to compare 2 versions of the defendant poised on day 1, unraveled on day 3 precisely, when public interest cycles typically dip. By 2 p.m., the team began connecting Prince's statements to familiar evidence. Real estate documents verifying the Beverly Hills address, Prince mentioned. Financial ledgers reflecting the exact disbursements. Text chains from earlier witnesses describing secluded upstairs rooms configured exactly as Prince had outlined minutes earlier. Each slide felt like a nail sealing a crate. During every pause, the defense table buzzed with whispered conferences. One lawyer drafted an emergency motion to suppress the recording, arguing that a deceased speaker cannot be cross-examined and the chain of custody was insufficient. Legal commentators in the gallery quietly agreed the filing was a textbook panic response. Absent proof of tampering, federal rules allow authenticated declarations from unavailable witnesses. Worse for the defense, the timing telegraphed desperation. Although the judge formally instructed jurors to ignore emotional outbursts, trial veterans understand human nature. Once you watch a polished public figure deteriorate so dramatically, the image lingers. 3 jurors continued studying Combs's body language long after Prince's voice faded. Reporters raced to hallway payphones. Yes, a few still exist in that courthouse, to alert editors, guaranteeing saturation coverage by evening newscasts. Cable hosts who had drifted to other headlines on day 2 pivoted back with wall-to-wall segments. Social media feeds exploded. Clips of artists reacting to Prince's ghost testimony, analysts debating the defense meltdown, and fans trading theories about what else might reside in Prince's fabled vault. The prosecution had reignited national interest precisely when the case risked sliding off the trending list. Amid the frenzy, it was easy to forget that singer-songwriter Cassie Ventura was still on the witness stand for a 4th consecutive day. The defense counsel attempted to undermine her credibility by reading risque text messages from 2009, suggesting she had willingly engaged in the defendant's lifestyle. Yet the timeline undercut the tactic. Prosecutors pointed out those messages predated many alleged incidents by years, and Ventura herself conceded she had once viewed the relationship through rose-tinted lenses common to young artists drawn to fame. What mattered on day 3 was less her earlier statements than how forcefully Prince's tape echoed portions of her testimonies, especially descriptions of restricted private rooms and tight circles of gatekeepers around the mogul. When Ventura exited the stand near day's end, 2 courtroom observers noticed members of Combs' family wiping eyes, a poignant reminder of the human collateral inside these public spectacles. Legal specialists later praised the prosecution's architect's blueprint. They built foundational credibility with mundane paperwork guest lists, mobile phone pings, travel receipts. Only after those beams were secured did they place the weight of a superstar's personal testimony on top. Because Prince mentioned details already verified, the recording sounded less like rumor and more like simultaneous translation of documents the jury had seen. Equally effective was how prosecutors rehearsed the emotional rhythm. The sudden pause when Prince described being warned to mind my own business. The theater of silence that followed Combs' outburst. The decision to play the tape in a single uninterrupted block so jurors would experience the crescendo without distraction. If courtroom advocacy is storytelling, this was a masterclass. Court adjourned shortly before 5 p.m., but the battle continued in clerks' chambers, where defense attorneys filed their motion to exclude the tape. They alleged the recording might be impossible to authenticate and prejudicial beyond probative value, claiming the deceased cannot clarify context. Prosecutors countered that voice ID spectrographs and chain of custody affidavits satisfied every standard. A ruling is expected early next week, but off-record chatter suggests the bench views the defense argument as uphill. Outside, reporters thronged the courthouse steps. The prosecution team exited calmly, offered no comment, and stepped into waiting SUVs. Combs' attorneys emerged minutes later in tight formation, fielding shouted questions with rigid, no-comment refrains. One attorney typed furiously on his phone, presumably crafting press releases aimed at damage control. Music executives texting this reporter expressed renewed anxiety. If Prince documented misconduct this meticulously, whom else might he have recorded? Rumors swirl about additional tapes referencing other gatekeepers across genres. Entertainment lawyers are already advising clients who attended those celebrated white-themed summer events to prepare statements just in case. For now, the immediate stakes lie with 12 jurors who must weigh whether the unexpected voice of a departed icon outweighs the defense's portrayal of consensual adult escapades. Yet, even if the jury is eventually directed to disregard moments of courtroom drama, the spectacle has already shifted public perception. As one veteran broadcaster observed on my evening radio slot, "A meltdown that goes viral in the middle of trial is like spilling ink on a white suit. You can launder the fabric, but the impression never quite fades." Tomorrow, proceedings resume with additional financial analysts expected to trace cash transfers Prince mentioned. Security presence will remain heightened. None of us expect a repeat of yesterday's eruption, but contingency desks are already positioned. Cameras will again be barred, yet sketches and minute-by-minute tweets will convey every eyebrow twitch. The bigger unknown hovers in Minneapolis vaults. Prince's estate holds thousands of hours of unreleased material. If prosecutors have only begun mining that treasure trove, Day 3 could prove a mere overture. Defense attorneys must now litigate under the shadow of what else may surface a strategic advantage no living witness could provide. In 2 decades of covering courtrooms from Wall Street scandals to sports legends in peril, I have seldom witnessed a single evidentiary moment redraw every battle line as completely as yesterday's playback. One moment, Sean Combs was a billionaire impresario projecting unshakable calm. The next, he was a man wrestling with his own heartbeat, confronted by an artist whose truth can never be cross-examined. Whether the recording remains in evidence or is eventually stricken, its psychological detonation is irreversible. Jurors saw fear pierce confidence. Viewers worldwide glimpsed the underside of stardom's glitter. And a soft-spoken voice from beyond reminded us that, in the end, facts archived with precision may outlive every attempt to bury them. The trial marches on, but nothing about the path ahead resembles the road we were on 48 hours ago. Stay with us. Tomorrow's testimony may reveal whether Prince's parting message was the final bombsheller, merely the opening track on an album of revelations still to come.